que vous m'entendez? Hello, this is Anne on the English channel.
On y va, John. OK, c'est bon.
John here on English channel. OK.
On a décidé qu'on va avoir notre réunion en public.
Oh,
réunion.
Okay, everyone, we decided to have a public meeting to continue the meeting. Madame,
Guglielmin. Guglielmin. I got it right. Yeah.
Come on. Gulimin.
Guglielmin.
What do you
Guglielmin.
mean? What do you mean, Gulimin?
All right, Madame
We went
Dancho.
through this already.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Of course, I think Canada was quite shocked to see that we had another 1,000 job losses in the steel sector this week. And again, this is the Industry Committee for Canada. So I do believe it's incumbent on us to take this very seriously. We're seeing this is now the second tranche of 1,000 job losses in the steel industry. So in order to deal with that, I do think the committee should be seized with this and should be looking into it promptly. So I will move the following motion. Given that Algoma Steel's CEO has publicly confirmed that the Liberal government knew in advance that the company's restructuring plans always included major layoffs and nonetheless approved a $400 million federal loan days before 1,000 workers were told their jobs were gone. Time and again, the Liberal government hands out massive taxpayer-funded subsidies without demanding jobs guarantees, letting corporations take the money and still lay off workers by the hundreds and thousands. The committee reports to the House that it condemns the lack of jobs guarantees included in the Liberal government's financing agreement with Algoma Steel and stands in solidarity with Canadian steelworkers. Immediately invite the following witnesses to appear before the committee in relation to the funding agreement, prioritize their appearances above all other matters before the committee, and work with the House of Commons administration to schedule additional meetings to accommodate their appearances as necessary. The Minister of Industry, the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Jobs and Families, the CEO of Algoma Steel, representatives of the United Steelworkers, and any other relevant witnesses. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madame Dancho. So we have a motion that's been moved. I'm going to suspend very briefly to allow for the distribution in both languages of the motion. It had not been previously put on notice, so out of fairness to members of the committee, I'm going to give them a few moments to review it. So we're going to suspend briefly. We've had an opportunity to have the motion presented by Madame Dancho a few moments ago circulated in both official languages to members of committee. I think an adequate amount of time has been given for consideration of this motion. We will now enter into debate on this motion. Ms. Borelli had her hand up, and those are the only, that's the only hand that I have currently on my speaking list. I have Madame O'Rourke. You weren't, because you were on the speaking list prior to the motion, but we're all yes, but we're all going to get to it.
I'm sure you do.
Mr.
Nate.
Falk,
It's going to be riveting.
Mr. Falk, I assure you, there's plenty of time for everybody to speak, so we'll get to you. So I have Ms. Borelli, Madame O'Rourke, Mr. Falk, Mr. Guglian. What do you mean? What do you mean, Guglian?
What do you mean, Gulimin?
Guglielmin. I got it.
I've been here one day. Come on.
All right.
Do you put your name on the list to speak?
I know you are.
I'm covered, but my colleagues want to.
So then I raise my hand.
Okay, Monsieur Saint-Marie. Merci tout le monde. All right.
So sweet.
I will not pronounce your name again, sir. With us on the line.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to speak in favor of the motion. We've seen time and time again where the government has entered into contracts with companies and handed out billions of taxpayers' dollars in subsidies without securing guarantees for Canadian workers. Taxpayers are demanding transparency, and workers deserve job guarantees. The government needs to answer for their incompetence with the contracts. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Borelli. Madame O'Rourke.
Carr. So we hear it in the House of Commons every day, and we have known that we are in a trade war. The government of the United States is attacking our core industries with impunity and attacking us particularly egregiously in the steel sector, because every independent sovereign country needs to have its own steel industry. And so that is what is egregious in this context. It's clear, and I believe that some of the leaders in Sault Ste. Marie have said so, that the federal government investments are actually improving a situation that would have been far worse, and is allowing Algoma Steel to retain roughly 2/3 of the jobs. Federal government support is also helping Algoma Steel to transition to a new way of manufacturing, a way that is green. But nonetheless, it's just awful for 1,000 families to receive layoff notices just a couple of weeks before the holidays. And I don't think there's a Canadian who doesn't feel for them. And I am more interested in looking at how we can provide supports immediately. And in fact, a report to the House at this point would take up some of the time remaining before the holiday break. And in that time, what we need to do is to pass the budget, which has a number of measures that will actually help these families immediately. And those include several new employment insurance provisions that combine permanent enhancements and temporary measures that respond to economic uncertainty, sadly, for these exact situations. The federal budget also has a number of measures to support tariff-affected industries so that they can sustain, if not all of their workers, then some of their workers. And it creates a path, because we are ramping up on major projects in this country that will require steel, aluminum, lumber, workers. And so what we need to do is support people. The government of Canada and all of the parties in the House of Commons need to be supporting these workers and these industries through what is a really difficult time. So some of the things that we find in Budget 2025 that we should pass before the holidays, that we should make use of House time, and the members could speak to these challenges in the context of the debate on C-15, which is the Budget Implementation Act. Some of those things are faster access to EI benefits. So the 1 week waiting period for EI claims has been waived for claims that will be filed to allow workers to receive their benefits immediately. And I mean, how critical is it for these families who want to know how they're going to pay their rent and their mortgage and their groceries? And so this improvement and the faster access to EI benefits is really important. Also, there are changes where severance or vacation pay will no longer delay EI, and that is important as well. And I don't begin to understand what the union agreements are or what the severance payments will look like, and I hope they are generous, and I hope that Algoma is thoughtful in how it cares for these families and these workers who've been loyal to them and who are highly skilled and hopefully ready to go back to work should there be an increase in production. There is also an increase in EI. So those EI benefits will increase, and starting, those benefits will rise from 55% to 60% of insurable earnings for regular benefits. The maximum weekly benefit will increase from $650 to $720, and there will be expanded eligibility for part-time and self-employed workers. And I don't know what the mix is for the workers at Algoma Steel, whether there's part-time workers there as well. So there's also workforce support in Budget 2025 that is so important, not just for the steel workers, but for all the Canadians who are in sectors that are currently being displaced by these American tariffs. And you know, we like to point at this Liberal government. The Conservatives want to point at the Liberal government. The assault here is coming from the United States, and we should be unified in supporting the workers who are affected. So that labour market development, $70 million over 3 years to retrain and upskill up to 10,000 steel workers, plus income support for displaced workers, and also work-sharing programs. So I know the Minister of Industry is working with Algoma Steel, is working with the leadership in Sault Ste. Marie to try and find supports immediately for those workers and also for the sector. So there are a number of things in the budget that will not only support the workers immediately, but also strengthen our steel sector in the coming years. We heard just last week, and it was very well received in Hamilton from the steel sector, new changes around tariff rate quotas, around anti-dumping, which has been a challenge in this country for a long time, and we will end the temporary tariff remission. The Buy Canadian policy will be helpful, infrastructure and housing activities, freight rate reductions, really important in terms of getting that steel across the country. The Strategic Innovation Fund has over $1 billion committed to help steel producers to modernize their facilities, expand their capacity, and diversify product lines. There's also the Large Enterprise Tariff Loan Facility, which is the $400 million that was received by Algoma Steel. And we're looking for the long-term competitiveness of the sector. So, Mr. Chair, I think that we could get more information. I think that we could potentially have a future conversation. I think that in this urgent moment, it's more important for the House of Commons to be focused on how we help these workers and affected sectors.
Thank you very much, Madame O'Rourke. Mr. Falk, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to speak briefly in favor of the motion. I think it's imperative upon this committee to undergo this study at the moment with the ministers and with the CEO of Algoma Steel, and then report to the House, because there's 1,000 workers, 1,000 families that don't have income right before Christmas. And the things that the Liberal member across the way just mentioned are just subsidies from the government again. And I think we need to find out why this Liberal government keeps giving away hundreds of millions of dollars without job guarantees. The assault may be coming from south of the border, but the incompetence is right here across the aisle. And I says, those are the things that we need to find out where the problem really is. that we've got incompetency here. We know that the Minister of Industry lied previously when it came to Stellantis about the redacted documents when the Stellantis CEO.
One second.
Stellantis,
Ms. Falk, sorry, one moment. I've got several points of order. Mr. Bardizzi?
You know, I think it's quite a serious allegation to raise in this context without any of the supporting evidence. So I'm just wondering if how this is relevant to the debate on the motion at hand.
Yeah. So, Mr. Falk, we do treat the committee the way we would the chamber and try to keep in line with what we would call parliamentary language. So I'll offer you an opportunity before you continue to maybe consider rephrasing some of the words in reference to how you are contextualizing what occurred. But I put the
well,
mic back to
certainly
you.
the House and this committee is very well aware that the minister misled the House and this committee when she said that Stellantis had requested. When Stellantis had requested.
Mr. Falk, I apologize. As you know, when I have a point of order, it's I have to tend to it immediately. Mr. Bardizzi?
I'm hearing basically the same thing, so I'm just wondering if we can just stick to the motion.
Just one sec. You are not on. No one's. No, I've got the floor. So just give me 1 sec, please. Colleagues, I think we're on track to get where we want to get. Mr. Falk, I know you've got strong feelings and strong language that you'd like to apply. I know some colleagues across the way have some relatively legitimate concerns about the use of that language in terms of how we would apply rules and procedure to this committee and the chamber. If there's another way, Mr. Falk, that you can make the same point by using some different words, I'll encourage you to do so, and maybe we can move on. Thank you. Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's imperative that the CEO of Algoma comes here so that we can confirm that the information that has been coming to us from the Minister of Industry and the Liberal caucus is consistent with the information that he would be providing this committee. And that's why it's imperative that he comes here to confirm whether or not the information is accurate.
Thank you very much.
And so with that, I'll wrap it up. I just think we need to have these people here. We need to get to the bottom of what appears to be incompetence.
Thank you very much, Mr. Falk. Mr. Guliamin.
Thank you, Chair. Pleasure to speak in favor of this motion as somebody who worked inside the steel industry. It's really a consequential time for the steel industry. 25% tariffs was manageable. 50%, as we know, is impossible. And, you know, one of the key things that I find alarming, that I continue to find alarming here, is the precedent that's being set. First, we have the contract with Stellantis, where there's no jobs guarantees. Now, we hear the new definition of success seems to be we spend $400 million and we only get 1,000 job losses. So we continue to hand out money without any jobs guarantees. We have workers who are being affected all across the country. We look at the auto sector. Some 600,000 jobs are associated with the auto sector. All these are up and down the steel supply chain as well. So this is a very consequential issue. We need the relevant parties here at committee to testify to make sure that the Canadian people are getting the transparency that they deserve. Thank you.
Okay. Monsieur Saint-Marie, c'était la parole à vous, mais...
Mr. Saint-Marie, it would be your turn to speak, but I know what you want to do. There's another member who had raised their hand, possibly. We can just turn to the other member and come back to you. And Ms. Dancho has said now that she would like to add something briefly too. So if that works out, Mr. Erskine-Smith, Ms. Dancho, and then you. Okay, thank you. Mr. Erskine-Smith.
House Commons, certainly everyone at this committee is united in saying we want to defend Canadian steelworkers. I think we're all on the same page there. And why I want to start there is because I think there is a moment for unity that we are allowing to fritter away in some ways. The threat comes from south of the border. You have volatility, instability, a menace in the White House when it comes to Canadian economic interests and our well-being. And we should all be united. There has been that unity, and I worry about that unity fracturing. And so I think just as a starting point, it's important to frame where are we at and how can we work together to make sure we put the best interests of Canadian steelworkers first. And having been to Sault Ste. Marie a number of times, it is devastating to Sault Ste. Marie. It is devastating to a number of to the community there, to families there, and so everything we can do to stabilize the situation for Canadian workers and steelworkers is incredibly important. Now, we're talking about a $400 million loan from the feds and a $100 million loan from the provincial Conservative government via Doug Ford and his team. And I just want to again just be clear. So there has what I've seen in the media reported. I've seen the federal finance minister say, if it was not for the support, the situation at Algoma would be dire today. I've heard the Prime Minister in the House say there would have been an even darker day. I have seen Doug Ford say we had a choice, save 2/3 of the jobs or let the company go down. I've seen Vic Fedeli say everybody, including the unions, knew the layoffs were coming, but they're coming faster because of the Trump tariffs. And I don't want to be dismissive here of the need to bring witnesses in. I absolutely agree. We need the CEO here, and I think ministers should attend. And I think it would be very constructive to say, was this agreement fashioned in the right way, in the best possible way? Could we have done a better job? Maybe. I don't know. Where I struggle with the motion, if I'm being honest, is I have no problem inviting witnesses to appear. I think we can constructively do this work to say, let's play the accountability function that a committee should play, and look at the government action federally, look at the government action provincially, look at what was known or what wasn't known as these agreements were being negotiated. Could we have done better? Could we think about better ways of job guarantees and protecting workers? Was it possible in the circumstances of this particular case? Let's hear the testimony and let's come to some conclusions. I struggle because Mr. Falk rightly said, we should study and then report to the House. What this motion does is it reports to the House and then studies. And personally, the way it is drafted as is not something that I think makes a ton of sense. If we can come to a place, and I know we're going to run out of time tonight, but if we can come to a place where we're focused on studying the core substance of the issue, and then we subsequently report to the House our findings, that's a place that I think would be constructive and helpful.
I had Madame Dancho.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the comments thus far, and I think it does make the point of this motion was crafted in a way to, yes, have a study at committee and that we would have a debate in the House of Commons. And unfortunately, I'm getting increasingly concerned that we're having a lot of pushback for having concurrence debates, which carry weight, which carry votes. Often ministers will come comment on them. And I do appreciate that there's been some movement for some evening debates. I appreciate that. But again, I think the gravity of the situation we're facing is it seems not to be being recognized by not allowing serious debates of concurrence in the House. And I say that because I think there's been valid points made. And the purpose of opposition is to hold government ministers, government parlsecs, MPs speaking on behalf of government accountable for their policies. Given thousands of people are losing their jobs in the steel industry, surely the House of Commons of Canada should have a fulsome, binding debate on the policies best suited to deal with thousands of people losing their jobs with no end in sight. There's been no guarantee that a trade agreement, a trade deal is forthcoming or imminent or near on the horizon. To not allow a fulsome concurrence debate with a binding vote, I think does a disservice to these job losses. It deserves to be debated. We deserve to be able to ask ministers fulsome questions in the House of Commons. That is why we're very keen to have it reported to the House, Mr. Chair. So I just want to drive home that point, and we will continue to drive home that point for all industries impacted by this trade war. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Madame Dancho. Monsieur Saint-Marie.
Mr. Saint-Marie. Thank you, Chair. I much appreciated the debate and discussion. I think that at the basis, if we didn't have the protectionist policies of President Trump, we wouldn't have to discuss all these issues, and we really need to condemn those policies that are often illegal, in fact, under which the government has done these things and that have major impacts here. We are all in solidarity with the workers of the steel industry and aluminum as well in Algoma at Sault Ste. Marie. I'm in favor of this motion as I read it line by line. I agree with everything that's in it, and the committee should examine the issue with the witnesses listed, and that the committee should report to the House. Of course, with the aspects mentioned by Mr. Erskine Smith, we should slightly rephrase it to arrive at a whole, but after having heard the witnesses, but given the urgency, I'm in favor of the motion as presented. But Chair, we had another motion on the automobile industry and heavy vehicles that we debated at length recently. And now in the House, there is an exploratory debate on that subject, which concerns us as well considerably. If we were all ready to vote on the motion now, I would be ready to vote in favor of it. However, I understand that it's not the case for all of the members of the committee, and that the debate could continue as long as there are resources available for this committee. In my opinion, it's less productive than to follow the debates in the House now on the question of automobiles. And that's why, Chair, I propose that we adjourn the meeting. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Saint-Marie. So, colleagues, we know what happens now.
To adjourn, it's a dilatory motion. There's no debate. I'm looking around the room, and I think we'll probably take formal roll call on this one. Madam Clerk.
On the motion to adjourn the meeting, Mr. Bardesi.
Yes.
Mr. Baines.
Oui.
Mr. Erskine Smith.
Yes.
Madame O'Rourke.
Oui.
Ms. Borelli.
No.
Ms. Dancho.
No.
Mr. Falk. Mr. Guglielmin.
No.
Oui.
Yeas pour, 5, 5. Nays contre, 4, 4.
Okay, colleagues, we've adopted a motion to adjourn. Meeting adjourned.
So it's your holiday break now?